Have you ever noticed how the modern world loves pretending it is diversified, resilient, and intelligently designed? Right up until you look at a map and realize an absurd amount of global energy still depends on one narrow channel that is only about 21 miles or 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. And let me ask you something more direct. If roughly 20 million barrels a day of oil and petroleum liquids moved through the Strait of Hormuz in 2024, along with about a fifth of global LNG trade, do you really think a 30-day closure would be some regional inconvenience? Or do you think it would punch straight through inflation, rates, transport, food, and financial markets almost everywhere? And if the current 2026 war has already shown that traffic through Hormuz can collapse violently, with Reuters reporting a 97% drop in tanker traffic after the February 28 US Israeli strikes on Iran. Why are so many people still acting as if this kind of scenario belongs in a think tank simulation rather than the real world? Stay with me until the end of this video for 3 reasons. First, I'm going to show you why Hormuz matters far more than most people understand, and why the world still leans on it far too heavily. Second, I'm going to walk you through what a 30-day closure would likely look like week by week, not as fantasy, but grounded in how markets, governments, and supply chains have already reacted to the current disruption. And third, I'm going to show you why the real danger is not just the oil shock itself, but the chain reaction that follows when energy, inflation, finance, and political stability all start pressuring each other at once. And if conversations like this help you understand the real machinery underneath global fragility, instead of just waiting for the news to tell you that life has suddenly become more expensive again, click like, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with other people who still think supply chain risk is some boring corporate phrase instead of one of the easiest ways the modern world gets humbled. Now, let's reset the frame properly. Think of the world economy as a high-performance car. It looks incredible, but it runs on a very specific type of fuel. The Strait of Hormuz is the main gas station for that fuel. Every day, a fifth of the entire world's oil supply gets squeezed through this one channel. It's the primary exit for oil giants like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the UAE. On top of that, about a fifth of all the liquefied natural gas (LNG) the world uses, mostly from Qatar, takes the exact same route. So what shuts it down? Not some abstract theory. In our world of 2026, it's war. A regional conflict boils over, and suddenly the strait becomes a weapon. You don't need a massive navy to close it. In the modern world, you do it with the threat of drones, fast attack boats, and anti-ship missiles. You make it so terrifying to pass through that all the giant shipping and insurance companies say, "No thank you." The warnings go out, insurance is cancelled, and the traffic just stops. The world's fleet of supertankers drops anchor and waits. The 30-day countdown begins. In week 1, the first thing that happens is not blackouts. The first thing that happens is the financial markets have a seizure. Energy traders don't wait for a committee meeting, they price the fear instantly. Brent crude, the world's oil report card, doesn't just climb, it explodes. Prices that were around $70 a barrel fly past $100. This isn't about supply and demand anymore. It's a bet on how long the chaos will last. The pageant hits immediately, but it doesn't hit everyone the same. Think of it this way. Imagine your home's entire water supply comes from a single pipe, and that pipe runs through your angry neighbor's backyard. That's Asia. More than 80% of the oil from Hormuz goes there. Countries like Japan, which gets over 90% of its oil from the region, and South Korea, which gets about 70%, are in a full-blown crisis. China and India see a massive chunk of their energy supply choked off overnight. Refineries across Asia, starved of their lifeblood, start to power down. The US is a bit more protected because it produces its own oil, but that doesn't make it immune. Oil is globally traded, not emotionally local. The price spike in London and Singapore shows up at the American gas pump almost instantly. Meanwhile, the producers in the Gulf are stuck with full tanks and nowhere for the oil to go. The world is suddenly missing 20 million barrels of oil every single day, and the global economy is already feeling the fever. By week 2, the problem stops being just a story about oil prices and becomes a story about everything else. The fire is spreading from room to room. The first to go is the airline industry. With Asian refineries slowing down, the production of jet fuel collapses. What's left is insanely expensive. Suddenly, the giant airports in Tokyo, Seoul, and Beijing turn into huge, expensive parking lots for planes that have no fuel. The natural gas market is also in pure chaos. All of Qatar's LNG exports, which make up about a fifth of the world's supply, are trapped. For Europe, it's like a horror movie they already saw in 2022, and the monster is back. For countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh, it's even worse, threatening massive power outages. In the middle of this mess, big energy companies start declaring force majeure, which is a fancy legal way of saying the product you paid for isn't coming. Leaders press the big red emergency oil button, and the International Energy Agency IEA coordinates a release from strategic reserves. But here is the secret. Those reserves are a bucket, not a river. They were designed to patch a small leak for a few days, not to replace the entire flow from a gusher that's been sealed off. It's a band-aid on a bullet wound. By week 3, the infection escapes the energy market and contaminates the entire global economy. This is when the crisis lands on your kitchen table. Oil prices are now flirting with $140 a barrel. Here's a connection most people miss. That Strait isn't just an oil highway, it's also a main road for fertilizer. A huge portion of the world's urea, a key ingredient, passes right through it. With that supply gone, fertilizer prices triple. This isn't just about the cost of farming, it threatens the asterisk next to asterisk harvest. Everywhere, the fear of food shortages becomes real. This is where central banks get caught in a nightmare they call stagflation. It's like being in a car skidding on ice. Do you slam the brakes by raising interest rates to fight inflation and risk spinning out into a massive recession? Or do you keep your foot off the brake to protect the economy and just let inflation burn through everything? There are no good answers. This isn't just numbers on a screen anymore. This is when people get angry. Protests erupt in countries crushed by high prices, fuel rationing, and job losses. The world feels poorer, angrier, and a lot more fragile. In the final week, the global system hits its breaking point. The world was built for just-in-time delivery, which sounds brilliant until the time runs out. In week 4, the time is out. The engine seizes. Oil prices push past the level many economists see as the point of no return for the global economy. The financial markets, which were nervous before, now have a full-blown panic attack. Stock markets in New York, London, and Tokyo plunge, wiping out trillions of dollars in paper wealth. The real-world dominoes fall hard. The Eurozone, the UK, and Japan, their industries starved for energy, officially enter a deep recession. The US is right behind them. China, the world's factory built on the promise of predictable trade, starts to sputter as plants close and unemployment spikes. Leaders are desperate. That big release of emergency oil reserves finally starts to show up, but it's too little, too late. That 90-day reserve requirement sounds like a lot, but it was never designed to fill a 20 million barrel a day hole for a month straight. For some countries, that buffer is more like a 10-day fantasy before they run dry. The world has run out of tricks and run out of time. So, let's bring this home properly. 30 days, that's all it took to shove the global economy off a cliff. When the Strait of Hormuz eventually reopens, it's not a magic reset button. The damage is done. A 30-day closure of a 21-mile waterway didn't just cause a problem, it threw a giant wrench into the gears of the entire global machine. Reopening the strait doesn't fix the broken teeth on those gears. It would take months, even years to recover. The real lesson here isn't about oil. It's about fragility. We have built a world that looks incredibly advanced, but is all balanced on a few very thin pins. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz is a hypothetical scenario, but the vulnerability it shows us is terrifyingly real. It forces us to ask the real question. In a world where things seem to be getting more tense, not less, what happens when the next pin breaks? If this gave you a sharper and more truthful way to think about Hormuz, energy shocks, and why one narrow waterway could still humble the global economy, click like, subscribe to this channel, and share it with other people who want to understand the structure before it fails. And if you want deeper conversations about geopolitics, choke points, inflation, period 9 pressure, and how these macro shocks shape business and daily life, join the Destiny Architect Telegram chat, where we continue these discussions with people who want clarity instead of comforting nonsense.